Welcome to Confluence, the podcast where hospitality, leadership, and mindset come together. Join your hosts, Santiago and Kristen, co-founders of The Colombian, a multi-cafe and roastery in Canada, as they delve into the transformative power of these three key elements on your business.
Kristen, this is episode number 8 of Confluence, where we explore leadership,
hospitality,
what else?
and mindset.
Mindset. And I think today, I want to be a little bit controversial. I think we've been maybe holding back. And today I want to talk about one thing that I think a lot of business owners do it. We did it. Sometimes we do it. And we have to reset because business is not perfect because it's run by humans. Mm-hmm. But it's running your business like a family. And I think that is a red flag. And your team is not your family. They are your team. And that changes the mindset around the business.
Absolutely. This is something that every time I hear a business or an organization refer to themselves as we're a family here, immediately I am okay, that is a red flag. I think that when we're looking at language, and we've talked about this in our previous episode, the use of our language is so powerful in shaping our mindset. So I believe that businesses or organizations that are referring to themselves as we're a family here, I believe that it's coming from a good place.
Yes.
Where they are, they want to, let's say you're coming for a job interview as an example, and they're we're a family here. I think what they want to do is they want to portray or share that, here we care for each other, we support each other, we encourage one another. It's a really pleasant place to work. However, the problem with that is that some families are like that. Some families are very healthy. Some families have great relationships. If you think about a family in this perfect, Hallmark movie. But the reality is families are extremely complex social structures.
Yes, they are not perfect by any chance.
Yeah.
And I would say that some families are dysfunctional.
Absolutely.
So I think the thing that really dawned on me a long time ago was, yes, you can call your employees or your team your family, but then would you really release your uncle or your brother back into the workforce and just kind of say, hey, thank you very much, it's been great, see you later? No. And then it's just it literally goes against what you have been saying. And then I forget, I've watched a couple of different podcasts from guys that I follow, and they kind of brought out that up again, is if you then change the mindset around the people that you work with, or your team, and you say, hey, we are not a family, because you will tolerate things from your family that you will not and you should not tolerate at the workplace, then call them a team, and a high-performance team. So today, when I talk to my team, it's hey, we are a high-performance sports team, and the sport that we play is hospitality, and they get kind of this smirk on their face, and they're oh, really? It's exciting. But I think when you switch it from the team, then it's hey, just like any other sports team, if a player's not cutting it, guess what? He gets traded, he goes somewhere else. And it's not because they are not good or because they're bad people. It's because they don't fit the culture, they don't fit the performance, they don't fit what it is. And you remove that personal aspect that if you call it a family, it's it will be really hard to tell your mom, sorry, we're done. If you tell somebody in your team is hey, it's not personal, we just need everybody to perform at this level. And unfortunately, you're not aligned with the values or with the other things that we do with the company, which means that you're just not a team player. We got to let you go. That removes you're not a bad person, you're just not good for what we need.
Yeah.
And I think that's been the approach for business, and I would encourage business owners or people that have smaller teams, because I know it's coming from a good place, like you were saying. It's coming from a place of, I want to create a culture where we treat everybody nice, but that is all fine and dandy until things go sideways.
Yeah.
And then you find yourself treating them as friends or family, and then you maybe let go of things that if you were treating them as a team, you wouldn't. So I think that's where that comes from.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I think when it comes to, conflict in families, I would say a lot of families are conflict avoiders.
Yes.
I would say, conflict is uncomfortable. And especially in the context, like of a family. Families, you should have this unconditional love where, you just accept everyone as they are, and you might have conflicts. There could be like family, like internal gossiping that's happening.
Yep.
All of those things that you don't want in your business. Basically, keeping the peace, which I think a lot of families do. Keeping the peace, keeping the peace is not how you're going to run a successful business. If you're running your business on keeping the peace and you're not actually addressing things
100%.
as they come up, then you're going to run into a lot of issues and a lot of problems. And so again, that context and that language of like family versus team is absolutely like pivotal in understanding actually how to handle conflict. And that piece about not taking things personally, I would say that in a family, your interactions with your family, I believe, are very the personal and they're very emotions based.
Yes, very much so.
And there can be, things that have happened, within the relationships within that like internal family that are going to come up. And humans are complex. We're complex creatures.
Oh, I think that's what makes business the hardest is
absolutely
we can build systems, we can build things, but ultimately the common denominator of things that we can't predict is human interaction. And that's why giving them the parameters of like having values as a company, having the least amount of ambiguity within how you run the company creates a little bit more clarity. But at the end of the day, what I spend most of my days dealing with is dealing with humans, coaching them, having conflict with them, letting them know where they stand, creating accountability, because at the end of the day, it's not personal. It's about what the business itself needs from each person to contribute for it to be successful.
Yes.
And if you put emotions behind it, it makes it that much harder to actually have those conversations. And it's not that we don't care for people, but we care so much for the people that we have that are committed that we only want to surround ourselves with the right people in the right seats doing the right things to contribute to the culture so that they're stewarding the culture. And when I talk about culture, it's like the environment that we work in. It's not just like, oh, we say that we have a culture. It's like, how do we steward each other so that we have a good place to work at, so that when I get up in the morning, it doesn't feel like a chore. It feels like, oh, cool, I get to go and hang out with a bunch of people that we are doing the same thing and we enjoy doing it, so that we don't find in ourselves or somebody in the company that is like, oh, man, I don't want to go there.
Yeah. There's no question. And, talking about like building that culture, what I see happen within businesses is in that effort to maybe try to drive that culture or build the culture, I see some business owners going down the path of like, oh, I'm going to like use that family piece because that's the kind of culture I want. I want that support, that care, that warmth, that community feeling. But that's a huge mistake, because like we've already talked about, everyone's family is very complex and very different, and everyone has a different idea of what a family is. So when you actually create parameters as you're building your culture, we're not a family. We work together. We all have our own families.
Yeah.
We have a place where we are a team. We're high performance. We work together. These are our values. We address conflicts as they come up. Yep. We have accountability. We've created, when you create all the parameters, that's how you create your culture. You don't create it by just keeping the peace and just falling back on something that's like more emotions based, like a family is.
And I think running it as a team, it really boils down to then you put the responsibility or like the extreme ownership of your team, because you're the head coach. You're the general manager of that team. And then you cannot blame somebody else. If things are going sideways, shit, it's you. It's all on you. And I believe that you need to take extreme ownership over everything. Like if something goes well in the business, it's me. If something goes sideways, well, maybe I was blinded by something.
Yeah.
But here I made some notes.
Yeah.
Because I want people to maybe, like, we can talk about like what it is, but I want to give them some things for them to think about. So what are signs of growing as a family? Conflict is avoided to protect feelings. So it means that we just don't want to rock the boat because we don't want Sally to feel sad. And it's like, it's not about making her sad. It's about allowing her to become a better employee by providing her with the right tools and the right feedback. Decisions are prioritized to keep harmony over results. So again, it's always about not wanting to rock the boat. And you find that in families because it's like, oh, I don't want to have Thanksgiving with my sister or my brother and just like, I don't want it to be awkward. Conflict is good. Underperformance is tolerated. There's a lot of people that I see that are at great places, great businesses, but it's like that one person is only going to degrade their culture and degrade the performance. And then it just puts a lot more burden on everybody else. Another thing for people to look at is feedback feels personal rather than professional. And I think this is where, as a leader, and I still have to learn, and I think this is something that you learn and you practice all the time, is how do you make it not personal? And I think that's where you need a framework of the values and the clarity of what the business needs, not what Santiago or Kristen needs, or what you as the business owner needs. Is like, what is the business? And this is why we are giving you this feedback, because this is what we need.
Yeah.
And another thing is where accountability is inconsistent or clear. And I've done that before, where I've come to realize today that everybody receives feedback differently and is perceived differently. And that's where it's very important that we maybe have follow-up questions after we give feedback for people to understand for us to understand whether that person actually got the point of what we were trying to make. But a lot of people just rush through it. There's this tool that we use at the Colombian, and it's called LMA. And lately, this is probably the thing that I think about as we scale up as a company. And it stands for 3 things. So leading and management equals accountability. What does that look like? Well, if I'm running it as a team, because I can't do that with a family, then I lead, and it's like I show them, I encourage them, I coach them, and then I allow them to go and do the things that they need to do within the company. And that's the part of management, where it merges into the management side of, okay, now I'm managing and now I'm giving them feedback. It's like, hey, remember I showed you this way? Rather than asking, why are you doing it this way? It's like, what is making you do it that way? Or what is it about the way that I explained you that it wasn't unclear? And then leaving that open-ended question for them to give you feedback, so that then you can actually maybe realize that they didn't understand it, or that they need to be trained differently, because we all communicate very differently as humans. And that's something that as a leader and as a coach, I have to understand. And it's probably the thing that I spend most of the time with my leaders within the company. Coaching them is like, you can't just show a person one way or another. Yeah. It's like, there's like 5 or 6 ways that people learn. Let's do them all. So that's the leading and management. It's like finding that balance between those things. But at the end of the day, it's also recognizing that people sometimes are not a good fit for what they get it. So they don't get it, or they're not capable. So at that point, that's where you have to have that accountability piece, where it's like, hey, like, I have led you this way. I have shown you these things. I have watched you do it. I have corrected it for you. What can I do to help you do that? Because if you're not able to get to the end result in the way that the Colombian does it, we might have to release you back into the workforce. And it's not personal. It's about the performance in the team. Because if you allow one person to not do it differently, it dilutes the message for the rest of the team. And that's where you find cracks. But when you remove the personal aspect, it's not about why did you do it? And then they defend themselves. It's like, what was it about that? And then it opens up that conversation like, well, you know what? I didn't really understand what you were saying. And then that, as a leader, gives you the opportunity to readdress that, or like find different ways to help them out, so that you don't end up having to let him go too early. And I think as you become more well-versed around it, you learn to recognize who the coachable people. And one of the biggest things for me is if somebody makes excuses for themselves, you should let them go sooner than later. If somebody apologizes and tells you, you know what, I apologize, but I didn't get it. I have a lot more time for the people that apologize, that are well receiving of that feedback. The people that make excuses for themselves, they just don't want to be there. They're just looking for a job to cruise.
Yeah.
And if you're running a high performance team in your company, because that's why you need to scale up to have a successful business that doesn't need you there all the time, you can't have those people in your organization.
Exactly. And, you know, some of the questioning that you just gave an example of, rather than asking why, you're asking what. Again, another example of language. So the what versus why is a really tangible example of how people can transform the same message from being personal
100%.
to being not personal. As soon as you ask someone, why did you do it that way?
Boom. Barriers go up.
Barriers up. Defensive, excuses. As a leader, as soon as you're asking why, you are putting up a wall.
Mm-hmm.
If you just with a simple shift in language are
And that's
asking,
why language is so important.
That's why. What reason did you do that for?
Mm-hmm.
Something as simple as that, it's not going to elicit that same defensiveness
100%.
response.
And a lot of these things, like for you guys out there, a book this big, best investment I made when I started the Colombian, The Coaching Habit. Like this gave me a lot of tools early on before we did EOS and all these other things that we have done today. It's about like turning every interaction with your team into a coaching opportunity, and then asking them questions so that they lead you into where the root causes of problems are, so that you can solve them. And then it just creates more trust within the team, and then it doesn't make it a thing that is like, oh, I just have to defend myself.
Which is something that commonly happens in a family dynamic.
Of course. Yeah. It's just like I see kids with their parents, and it's just like Sally is mad because Tommy did something, and then Tommy's saying, well, she did this. And then it's just like, it's like a hot potato that you're throwing around. And if that's the culture that you allow to have in your business, a lot of things become permissive.
Yes.
And that dilutes the culture, which then it translates into the environment is not good. So there's gossip, people talking behind each other.
Yes.
And I'm not saying that we are perfect, but if we're always intentional about keeping those things at the forefront, it just creates a better place for them to work at. It also makes it where like everybody wants to get along with each other because there's that trust that is like, that person's got my back because they're not talking behind my back. It's like, doesn't matter who I work with, whether I'm good at certain things or good at other things.
Yeah.
It's what the unit as a whole does when you treat it as a team, and it doesn't become individualized, where sometimes in families there's always that favorite kid or the favorite parent or the parent that you know that you can get away with this, and then you're just like playing games with which parent do you ask with, especially when you have different managers.
Oh, absolutely.
And those are the kind of things that it just becomes permissive for a lot of behaviors that in a family might work. Because you only see them every so often, but with somebody that you work every day, it's going to be a team.
Yeah, and even you just saying that, maybe a child goes to mom for one thing, and maybe they say no, so they go to dad to try to get a different answer. I remember that earlier on in our business, we did have that happen.
Yes.
And that creates a lot of I think fractured trust and a lot of you lose all the clarity in your business. And so when you've created structure for everyone in your business, so everyone has their role, they know how the business runs, no matter who that person goes to, they're going to get the same answer.
Yes. And that is priceless, because at the end of the day, we go back to LMA. You lead, you manage. And the beauty of those two things working in conjunction is that you create accountability, and accountability creates momentum moving forward. And then everybody starts working for the same thing. And then there's no like clicks. There's no like, oh, I want to do it this way or like this is my team and you are at a different team. No, it's like we are all together doing the same thing because we believe in what the business is doing. But again, it takes a little bit of legwork at the beginning as a business owner. You need to know what your end goal is. You need to know what your core focus, which for the Colombian, I'll share with you, and I don't know if I've shared in the other ones, is we don't make coffee. We make people feel special. And we are a hospitality company. We're not a coffee company. So that's our core focus. Yeah. We have values where we pursue excellence, where we work as a team, where we put on the show, where we're grateful. So those things is the only things that we ask people to do within the company, but with the least amount of ambiguity. And we also say to them that if there's not an alignment with those things, they're just not going to have a spot in the team. And that's what, as a business owner, if you want to shift from that family style to maybe more of a team, and again, it's a fine line. And I'm not saying that we do it perfectly, but we strive to really run it as a team. I think that those are the tools that you need to put in place for you to be able to create accountability within your team and letting them know where you're going. It's just like if you're in a canoe and everybody's rowing in different ways, you're not going to go anywhere. But if everybody is like a dragon boat, everybody goes the same way, at the same rhythm, and at the same thing as a team, because I believe that as a team, you're just so much stronger.
Oh, there's no question. I also made a list.
What did you make?
You know, this, we've already talked about it, but within a family, we had mentioned that people often will avoid conflict.
Yes.
In a team, conflict is very, very healthy. Extremely. And conflict, I believe people associate conflict with like a negative connotation.
Yes.
But conflict, when it's healthy, is something that absolutely will grow and maintain your culture. So this is my list of why conflict is healthy and why it's not harmful. There has to be that distinguishing between healthy conflict from drama or personal attacks, which we've talked about. Healthy conflict includes honest feedback, asking tough questions, debating ideas, but like not people, collaborative problem solving. Benefits of healthy conflict is that it actually builds trust. People actually feel that they can
bring things up,
and it's not going to be held against them. It sharpens ideas. It increases innovation within your team. It reduces blind spots, and it improves team communication and performance. And I would say that healthy conflict really, really builds like more of that culture of like trust and accountability.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Oh, I agree. And I think today, because a lot of people have grown in broken homes, let's just call a spade a spade.
Yeah.
When we talk about conflict, they think of their parent or sibling yelling at them, calling them names, treating them badly, which I don't think that's conflict. I think that's abuse. And if that happens at the workplace, find a different place to work.
Yeah.
But when we talk about conflict, it's like being able to have that uncomfortable conversation for 5 minutes so that you can have the rest of the time in harmony. There's a saying in Spanish, and I'm trying to translate this thing, where it's like, it's better to be red in the face for a couple minutes than being red in the face all the time when you're with that person. And yeah, I think it's been demonized, conflict, because I think it's been kind of like shifted from abuse and conflict. They're all together, and there's a fine line. But I think if you run it along the values and you run it with respect, and you're able to provide that feedback of like, hey, it's not about you, but it's about the performance of how you did this. These are the things that we need you to work on, and giving them examples of like, I've noticed that when you do X, Y, and Z, this is the end result. And you're going to have them trying to defend that. So that's why sometimes you have to offer them more than just one example or two or three. Because if you have 2 or 3 examples, then it's going to sink in. It's like, oh, and you're going to see it in like the first time that you bring something up, I've seen people get defensive and they're like, oh, I'm ready to defend myself. And then you give them a couple more examples and then they're just like, oh, yeah. And a good team member will say, you know what, I am really sorry. And they're going to ask you, what can I do to get better? Mm-hmm. And I think as a leader, it's very important for you to say, you know what, I want to help you this way. These are the things that I want to start seeing in you, that you emulate, because that's going to show me that you actually took this feedback to heart and that you actually want to contribute to the team. And that's how you're going to know that you need to keep investing in that person. But that only happens through conflict, which is feedback, which is back and forth. And sometimes, like, I've had employees tell me that I did something wrong and it sucks. But the reality is that I'm also not perfect and I'm trying to do this. And sometimes I had to apologize. As a business owner, we are never 100% right. We make mistakes 50% of the time, because a lot of the time we're just like throwing things on the wall to see what sticks. But when you have to create that kind of trust of not running it like a family, but running it like a team, and people are able to give you feedback and you're able to give them feedback, it creates a growth mindset amongst everybody. That is not about Sally or Santiago or Tommy and Santiago. Yeah. It's about the business needs this, and we operate within this realm. And for us to operate in that realm and be part of this team, this is what we do. And being able to have those tough conversations. And I really encourage people to, in a respectful manner, not address all those things that are hard. Because when you have clarity with your team, when you remove ambiguity and everybody knows where they stand, there's just more joy and there's more purpose behind everything that we do.
That's absolutely so well said. And that's part of leadership. It's a huge part of leadership. I think that, I guess, what would we've given, I think, our listeners a lot of different, different things.
This is pretty dense. I mean, it's a lot.
It's pretty dense.
So I'm gonna say this little note that I have right here, and you can think about it. If you want to run your business like a team and not like a family, I encourage you to embrace friction so that you can have growth, alignment, and high performance. And think of it as a high-performance sports team. And watch what coaches at that level do. That is what you need to do with your team, because it's never personal. It's about what that team needs to succeed. So I'll leave you with that.
Okay.
Anything else you got?
Oh, cheers to that.
Well, cheers, Kristen. It's been great. And thank you all for listening to us. It's humbling and it's very special that we get to share this with you. So thank you.